Hello and welcome to another episode of Beer Man's Noble Beer Reviews. Today I have another beer from Founders Brewing Company out of Grand Rapids, Michigan. So I believe I've done a review for the regular Kentucky Breakfast Stout, KBS. But this is a variant that came out this year. This is the Espresso version. Sorry, there, Espresso. So, I know you're probably thinking, well, doesn't the regular one already have coffee in it? Which it does. But I just assumed that this one had espresso beans versus whatever coffee they normally use. But this makes it, the description on the back of this makes it sound like the beer is already brewed in or infused, aged on coffee before it's aged in the bourbon barrels. Which kind of surprised me. I don't know if I'm reading that right or not. And then it basically says after it's removed from the barrels, then it's aged on espresso beans. So I guess this is basically just like regular KBS with an extra kick of espresso. I've not had this variant before. It's new, and I heard it's really good, so I'm pretty excited to crack it open. This is I guess I didn't really go through the whole description of this beer if you're not familiar with it. So this is an Imperial Stout brewed with chocolate and coffee and aged in bourbon barrels. But this one has espresso beans. And it is 12.0 ABV. I know some states have a 12% limit, so I'm guessing that's they label it that way on purpose so they can sell it in those states too if it's exactly 12. So we'll see what we got. And I honestly have not had just like regular KBS in a while either, so I'm kind of I'm admittedly pretty excited to give this a go. So I mean, it pours pretty much jet black with a nice tan, pretty small tan head. It looked pretty thick when I was pouring it. Oh man. So I know a lot of people like to age this beer. I don't, because to me it's the coffee that really makes it good. Not that the barrel aging isn't an important thing, but to me when the coffee falls off, then it kind of just turns into a weird, not so great barrel aged Imperial Stout. But to me, the reason it's so good is because of the coffee and the barrel aging combined. And this, I mean, I get the bourbon, but it's usually the bourbon is stronger in the aroma than the coffee is. This is the complete opposite, in my opinion. The espresso is very big. It's a lot of really dark roasted coffee. I do get some bourbon and chocolate too, but coffee is definitely at the forefront. Oh man, that is delicious. And if you're wondering why I'm holding it like this, I'm just trying to warm it up. I wanted to get this cold pretty quickly to do this review, but I admittedly probably went a little bit overboard with the chilling, and it's a little colder than I would like for this type of beer to be. But even given that, it has a ton of flavor, even being somewhat cold. So, I don't know that I necessarily pick out that the coffee character is different than it usually is, but for me, it's kind of just more that the coffee seems more integrated into the total flavor in the bourbon character, where like before it was kind of, there's big coffee and then you get a wash of bourbon, but they weren't really kind of like really blended together that well. And in this, it kind of is all its own flavor. It's kind of, it just has like, if you've ever had, it kind of just tastes like if they took, because I've had chocolate covered espresso beans, but it kind of tastes like if they soaked espresso beans in bourbon and then covered them in chocolate. That's basically what it tastes like. It's kind of its own cohesive flavor rather than getting like a big roasty coffee and then the a bourbon like shot wash on the back end, which is kind of more like what regular KBS is to me. So I would say it's definitely more refined than the regular one. I don't know that it's that different, but it is more refined. So I guess it depends what you want. If you want something more refined, or if you want like a really unique variant, you're really not going to get that with this. To be honest, it's not that different than the regular one. I do think it's better, but it's not that different. It's kind of, like I said, because it's more refined, it kind of just makes me think that if you told me that the base beer was the same and they just used like different barrels, I would believe that too. And I don't think it says on here. Excuse me. It doesn't say on here what barrels they use. I don't think. The only barrels I know of that they use specifically is the Bliss for the CBS, like the maple bourbon barrels. I don't know what the regular bourbon barrels are. But the other thing with this, people are so caught up on like Imperial stouts being thick now, and by today's standards, like this might even be considered thin. But it's not thin at all. It has plenty of body, and it's really appropriate for 12%. It's just not super under attenuated. It's fermented down to what it really should be. It's not overly sweet. It comes off a little sweet, which I think is more from the like vanilla notes from the oak barrel and the cocoa nibs or cacao nibs. But to me, when I say it comes off a little sweet, I just mean compared to like if this was just a regular base Imperial stout, compared to today's standards with stouts with stuff in it like coffee and chocolate and all that. Like this is actually really dry. But I prefer that. I don't need something that's super motor oil thick. If it is that way, that's fine, as long as the flavor's on point. But I don't care about the body if the flavor's not where it should be. Yeah, this is really, really nice. You do get that underlying, like, there's even a slight bit of a like hoppy character from what I assume the base of this is their regular Imperial Stout, which is, in my opinion, the best regular Imperial Stout ever made. You do get that a little bit, and there's so much like deep, dark roasted coffee, a lot of dark chocolate, and a really nice vanilla oaky character from the barrel. It's just really well integrated. If there was ever a 12% barrel aged stout that I could just, I don't want to say session or drink like a ton of, but if there was ever one that I could just easily drink without really thinking about it, this would be up there. And that's not to take away anything from the beer and make it sound like the beer itself is like simple or anything like that. It's not. It's pretty complex. It's just the fact that it's so well rounded and tasty that you could easily drink through this bottle pretty quickly and not even realize it because it's just so easy to drink. It's not, and this is by my standards, of course. I know people who aren't used to drinking these types of beers might think this is boozy as hell, but I really think for a barrel aged beer and it's 12%, the alcohol is way more subdued than some of the other batches of the regular KBS that I've had. As far as my scale of buy, drink, dump, this is definitely a buy. I think I got this for $7, which I believe was actually a little marked up from what I've heard these were costing in other places. But I'm really glad that I bought a bottle of it, and I would buy this again. I also heard that KBS is going to be available year-round soon, the regular one, which is just mind-boggling to me because the regular KBS used to be not a whale. I mean, it wasn't that hard to get, but it was a pretty hard beer to get. So the fact that this variant is just, distributed everywhere is crazy to me. This is absolutely a buy for me. If you see this on the shelf or anywhere, I wouldn't trade for it because there's so much of it. I just don't think it makes sense to pay for shipping. But if you're anywhere close to their distribution, which most people probably are, I would definitely recommend picking this up. It's a great variant on an already awesome beer. But I think that's all I got in this one. Please like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think, and I look forward to doing the next one. Thanks.